portion of Lee Pitts Live is brought to you by Hodges University, educating the leaders of our community for over 20 years.
You will love his wit and smile when he shares his charm with you. He's got a star that can't be denied on Lee Pitts Live. Come on and listen. You will enjoy and learn if you're wise. There's talking and singing. Everything is there to keep you swinging. We're glad you turned in to Lee Pitts Live.
Good morning, Southwest Florida. Welcome to another edition of Lee Pitts Live. I'm so glad that you put us on your list of things to do, and I think you're going to be delighted as well. We are continuing with our autobiography series here on this March 11th, 2012. In this series, we'll get a chance to talk with Victor Arias, a renowned attorney here in the area of the Arias law firm. So we're excited about having Victor Arias here in the studio. Also want to remind everybody that throughout the past 5, 6, 7 weeks, we've been doing the autobiography series, and it has been a delight. I've gotten all your emails, your tweets. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can hit me up on Twitter. My handle is Lee Pitts Live. You want to find out more about the show, you can, of course, go to LeePittsLive.com. And, of course, you can find me on Facebook under Lee Pitts Live. Victor Arias of the Arias law firm, renowned attorney in our area. I know you've heard that he's going to be on the show. We received all your tweets, all your Facebook, and everything else about Victor, because you all have always wanted to know more about Victor and all the great work that he's been doing in the community. But where did Victor Arias actually come from, and how did he arrive to be such a distinguished individual in our community? We're going to find all that out right here, right now, on the Lee Pitts Live 2012 autobiography series. Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Lee.
It's good to get you here, man. Throughout life, I bumped into you from time to time, and every now and then I'll get a little bit of something about your background and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But after reading your biography, listening to some of the things that you've shared with me, I think people are going to be fascinated about how a young man from your humble beginnings could end up being such a distinguished attorney in our community. So let's go back to the early days. You actually grew up not speaking English in the Dominican Republic. What do you remember about those days?
Well, I remember playing with sheep, with goat. I remember just being a kid that was always stuck to his mother. I remember doing things, running barefooted. I remember just being in an environment where that was basically the greatest thing. No electricity, no running water. There was an outhouse, and till this day, there's no electricity, there's no running water, and you still have to go to the outhouse. The
outhouse. Tell our folk what an outhouse is.
Well, it's not like you have modern plumbing. You have to go outside. You know, there's a hole. You do everything that you have to do in that hole. You urinate, and you just do everything in that hole.
Now, this photo here pretty much represents the area that you grew up in, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, as you're running around in the Dominican, not speaking English, up until you were 8 years old, you were in another country. You come to America at around 8 years old, not speaking one word of English, and take us from what was your early experiences here and how your parents migrated here.
Okay. Well, my mother came first. She came about 2 years before we went to the United States. She came to New York. She was working in the laundromat. She was also cleaning. She worked as a maid, cleaning houses. So then 2 years later, she brought us over, and we just came to New York, and we came there in the wintertime. And the Dominican Republic is always hot, right, warm. So when we got to New York, of course, people saw us with clothing that's not warm. So they gave us the blankets that they have in the airports.
Fascinating.
So they gave us the blankets. We huddled up in these blankets, and then they took us to where we're going to live.
Your mom seems like she was the bedrock of your admiration. Was your father around at that time? How many siblings were a part of the whole process when you first migrated over?
When we first migrated over, my father was part of our family. At that point, there were 5 of us. There was Jose, Reina, Daisy, Neris, and myself at that time. And we wound up living in a tenement in Manhattan. And that tenement had 2 bedrooms. And, you know, my brother and I shared one room, and my 3 sisters shared another room, and my parents had their own room. So what happened was that we were all sent to school. I was sent to PS 75 in elementary school, and my brother and the rest, and actually Nedis and I were sent to elementary school at PS 75. Then Jose, Reina, Daisy wound up in junior high school. And in New York, junior high school is from the 7th grade to freshman to the 9th grade. So we had 9th grade, that was your first year of high school, and that's how junior high schools are different from middle schools here.
Now, the living conditions that you had before you moved into the project, and we're going to talk about, hooray, we finally moved into the project, because I found it to be quite fascinating when you told me about that. Describe those living conditions at that time before you moved into the projects.
Well, you know what? To me, it was fantastic,
right.
Okay? Because if you're coming from a dirt home, okay,
right,
to an apartment, the only difference is that in the dirt home you have a lot more places that you can run around, a lot more just space.
Right.
Whereas in New York City, we had this small space, you couldn't really run around anywhere. So that experience was, again, as a child, you just appreciate anything that's new to you. And I appreciated it. It was nice. It was fantastic.
Right.
Okay?
That was what, 1 bedroom?
It was actually two and a half bedrooms.
And 7, maybe 8 people.
8 people.
Okay.
So,
but that was a moving on up still.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And I always remember my older brother kicking me when we were sharing the same bed. Always remember having a foot in my mouth because we were sharing the same bed. But again, it was a great experience, and I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Now, at that time, did you realize by American standards you were poor?
No.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what poor was.
Right. Because you were a lot better off, felt like you might have you didn't have an outhouse at this point. You actually have a toilet in the house.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's like, okay, it was just different back then. Now you sort of grow up to something different. Maybe that's just part of the rites of passage. Mm-hmm. That's maybe part of the development process. But I didn't know. I just thought that we were just going from one location to another, and things just changed. And you just adapted with that change and just moved with the change.
Now your biography indicates that you eventually you got a degree in Spanish and in literature. How do you go from being a non-English speaking kid from the Dominican, coming over here in poverty, and become what you have? So let's go to what was going on in elementary school. How did you get to speak English?
Well, initially when we first were placed in elementary school, we were completely merged in English. So all my classes, or actually the one class, was in English. There was no Spanish. They didn't put me in a different classroom. It was all English.
I got you.
So my English, I picked it up quickly because that's all we spoke in the classroom. At home, it was all Spanish. But then what happened 2 years later, that's when the bilingual programs started to develop.
Around the country.
Around the country.
Particularly New York area.
Yes.
Okay.
So then what happened was that they took me out of that classroom where it was predominantly or dominantly English to a classroom where all of the kids only spoke Spanish. So I thought, at least from my standpoint, I went a little bit backwards because in that classroom, the kids, the ages ranged. Okay,
they just lumped all of you in there, no matter how old you were, they just lumped you in a class.
Exactly, and no matter how much of the English you knew or how developed in terms of educationally developed you were in terms of mathematics, sciences, and things of that nature, it didn't matter because we were all placed in that classroom with one teacher and with all these kids with diverse backgrounds. I mean, I had students from Ecuador, Chile, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. You had all this mixture of students in that one class, and we all knew or understood either no English at all or a little bit of English.
And you think that that was a bad thing, on balance?
At that time, I thought that because I spoke constantly Spanish at home, okay, I was always going to know Spanish. Mm-hmm. And then I needed to develop my English, and I thought it was somewhat of a setback during that time period. Yes.
Let's go. We've seen some pictures as you were talking. Just let people know that was Victor and his lovely wife and some of your relatives back in the Dominican. Those people that we saw standing would look like on the porch, those are some of your relatives. Let's give you a chance to talk a little bit about them. When you travel back to the Dominican as a successful American businessman, you travel back to the Dominican. What was that like for you to interact with your relatives?
Well, they would usually just tell me that I didn't speak Spanish well enough. So then I was hesitant to try to communicate to them in Spanish. Also, our differences are so much. I mean, it's like I would bring a camera with me.
Okay.
They never seen a camera.
Wow.
Okay, so that experience is just so different. I would see my father's faces and my mother's faces in my uncles and aunts.
Okay.
You know, it's just a tremendous experience to see who you are in their eyes. It's great to see your experiences as a child going back to those experiences, how wonderful they are, how innocent they were.
The fact that you said they were wonderful and they were innocent, that was some positive redeeming value that you took from that experience when you look back in terms of your overall development. It was a good thing, you think?
Absolutely. Because
Explain.
First of all, it prepared me. I can live anywhere, under any conditions, because of that. Also because of the transition to New York, you know, New York being the melting pot, New York being the Big Apple, that experience with the experience of the Dominican Republic, it just allows me to be more understanding of other cultures, more appreciative of what I have and what God has given me. So those are experiences that are just incredible.
Now, it's obvious that after you got here, moved through the system, skipping ahead, and we're going to back to your junior high school days. But I want to, we've seen these lovely pictures of you and your wife, African-American, Angelette, beautiful twin kids. How are you and Angelette going to maintain with your children some of those great values that you got from your Dominican experience?
Well, right now, I only speak to them in Spanish.
Ah.
Okay, but unfortunately, they're just responding in English. So I'm working on that so they can respond to me in Spanish. And hopefully, the next year or so, we're going to send them to the Dominican Republic so they can appreciate where I grew up and also appreciate that environment, so they will know how fortunate they are. Okay, to be blessed with two good parents and to have the support of two good parents. And also what God has blessed us with in terms of, home, car, and all that other stuff.
You know, and I'm going to share this with my audience who've been watching these autobiography series. Of all the people that we thought about, and I particularly thought about inviting to come on for the autobiography series, you were on the top of my list. And in my mind, I said, that Victor Arias is not going to do this because he doesn't like talking about himself. I ask you anyway. And even sitting here right now, seeing you talk about yourself and learning all of this is really great for our television audience to actually learn all of this good information. Now, did you have any apprehension when I say, hey, Victor, I want you to do this autobiography series?
No, I didn't have any apprehension. My goal is to show people, mm-hmm. to help people, and to let people know that we all have stories. We all have our individual stories, okay? We all have gone through rough times, tough times, and we're going to continue to go through rough times and tough times. But regardless of your background, okay? Regardless of your background, you can still make it. But you have to define what making it is. And you cannot allow anything to hold you back.
So how did Victor Arias go from where he was to get that proper education to become a renowned attorney here in the area, and call him for all your legal needs. His website, of course, is the ariaslawfirm.com. ariaslawfirm.com. Got it. It's on the screen. Okay. What was the demographics like in elementary school, when I say the children surrounding you, the neighborhood, the type of population, black folk, white folk, Spanish folk, and when you went to junior high?
Okay. Well, the school was predominantly white.
Okay.
Okay. And because of the bilingual education, they had
Pulled
one
you guys
class,
out.
pulled us out, and then there was one class at the time that I started that of Hispanics. Now, at home, and at this time, we had moved from the tenement to the projects. So we went from a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bedroom to a 4-bedroom, which is fantastic.
That's like the Jeffersons, moving on up.
It pretty much. and then you had 4 walk-up. You had to walk up. Here we had an elevator. So we moved to the 16th floor. And in the projects, we had a lot of Hispanics, a lot of African Americans. We had some whites, poor whites. So we had a very good mix of people. Mm-hmm. So it was just, demographics was just very.
Now, we looking at you, you're Dominican, black.
Right.
So you identify more with Spanish-speaking people, black people. How did you identify yourself closely more so?
Well, in terms of identification?
Yeah. Who did you migrate, who did you hang out with?
Whoever was an athlete, whoever liked to play with me, that's where I migrated to.
Okay.
It wasn't whether you're Hispanic or whether you're African American. It was just, you're young, we have something in common, let's play kick the can, let's play tag, let's play whatever. So whoever was there at the time, that's basically who I hung out with. And also, I used to play ball.
Okay.
I used to play basketball. I used to play baseball. And I used to play, well, really never got to play football until high school. But because of these sports, those were the friends that I made through sports.
So take us through Lawrence Academy. How you go, take us straight from Lawrence Academy, where you went to a prep school and got your scholarship, and then to college and to law school. Take us through that right now.
I wasn't doing very well in high school, academically. And actually, the schools that I went to were very rough. I went from Joan of Arc Junior High School to Martin Luther King High School, and at that time, those schools had a reputation for being rough.
Okay.
So then, apparently, I think I got into some sort of fight with someone, and they decided to send me to Charles Evans Hughes High School. Okay. So then, what happened is that I wouldn't call myself a complete delinquent, but I wasn't active academically. So I got involved with this organization called the Dome Project, and the executive director's name is John Simon. And there, they allowed me, they had individuals that came from Columbia University and other colleges in that area to tutor kids like myself. So once I got involved with the Dome Project, I stayed there for 3 or 4 years, played with their basketball team, and that created an organized place, an environment for me to go to. So John Simon became interested in me, and I became interested in him, and the school and the after-school program became like a family to me. So John Simon said, hey, if you're interested, I may have some connections to send you to a prep school. So there was a group of us, about 4 or 5 basketball players. He took us to Massachusetts. He dropped us off at different prep schools. We took a battery of tests, and we did okay. So the point guard, who's still my best friend, Lincoln Parker, and I were sent to and got a full scholarship to go to Lawrence Academy.
And then from there, you got a scholarship to go to college?
And then from there, I got a scholarship to go to college.
And then a scholarship to law school?
And then from there, I got a scholarship to law school.
And then you became the Victor Arias that we know today.
Well, I got married, and a lot of other things occurred that made me who I am today.
Now, we want to thank you for sharing that portion of the show with you, and we're going to have our bonus coverage as we continue. Thanks for coming out for that piece. Now, when you got to college, you decided you wanted to major in literature and Spanish?
Spanish literature.
Spanish literature. What drove you to that piece?
What drove me to that piece is
that type of major.
Well, I thought I wanted to be an engineer. I wasn't doing very well in sciences. So I started taking more elective classes, and then I started enjoying Spanish, the conversations, the topics that we were reading, the books that we were reading.
Okay.
And that's what got me involved in that. And also, my brothers and sisters would laugh at me and make jokes at me because I didn't speak Spanish as fluently as they did at the house.
But when you came over from the Dominican going back, it seems like it was just the opposite. You felt like you were so fluent in Spanish that you didn't need to waste time on Spanish. You need to be dealing with some English. Did the fact that you were focusing so much on English affect, or you were speaking broken Spanish or not as, the proper Spanish at that time? Was there a big difference in the type of Spanish you learned later on in a formal way as opposed to what you came from the Dominican with?
Absolutely, yes. There was a difference. And what's interesting is that because my brothers and sisters made fun of me, it also pushed me to say, how can I become a better speaker and a better writer in Spanish? So while I was in college, I managed to get a scholarship to go to Spain. And I studied...
Was that Madrid, I think I read?
Yes, in Madrid. And I studied Spanish literature for 7 months. So again, I was trying to become more fluent in Spanish, but at the same time, I also enjoyed Spanish literature, Spanish culture. So I wanted to continue to maintain my quote-unquote Spanish, Afro-Caribbean culture. And that helped me because I was better able to communicate. And once you're able to communicate in a person's language, people feel more comfortable with you.
When did it hit you along the way when you said, I can't believe this? I'm thinking now you're over in Madrid or places, college, you're in the prep school, you're moving through life. You came from humble beginnings, running around with sheep barefooted. When did you hit you that I can't believe this is little old Victor Arias from where I came from, and I'm doing all these things right now? When did that kind of hit you?
Well, it hit me basically when my mother passed away. She was 53 years old. It's been 20 years now. And it hit me because I realized that God is in power, is in charge, and that I've been blessed in so many ways. And I also realized that life is short, and since I've been blessed in so much, I have to give back. So that reality set in when my mother passed away, because she was my mother. She was at Rock, as you mentioned, and I think about her every day. I miss her every day, and she was the person that made all the difference in the world.
Excellent. Now, we won't hold that against you, but you eventually, I guess in college, you pledged Kappa Alpha Psi. All those Kappas listening and all that, so we plugging you. Everybody knows I'm a Phi Beta Sigma. Tell us about that college experience, and when did you start developing leadership skills where you wanted to, now you're running your own law firm. Somewhere along the way, you had to start developing leadership skills.
Right. Well, by the way, I pledged Kappa at the alumni chapter, Fort Pierce, Fort Pierce, Florida. So at Hamilton College, there were 1,600 students, okay? And there may be, out of those 1,600 students, there may have been 20 to 40 minorities, African Americans and Hispanic Americans. Mm-hmm. That was basically the total population at that time in the early 80s. So I didn't get that much in terms of, there were fraternities and sororities, but they were not African Americans. So it wasn't until I came to Florida that I got involved in fraternities. And I met a great individual who I respected a lot, and his name is Sumter James, and he said, why don't you join our fraternity?
Excellent.
And based on that, because of the respect that I had for Sumter, I became a Kappa.
The Cosby Show is not that far from reality in a sense, right?
Well, that's what you and I think, grew up on, watching The Cosby Show and watching positive role models living and growing up and having their children live and grow up and develop and become positive role models themselves. Angela and I mean, look, we basically just work.
Rodney, I know. I see you right.
We go home, take care of the kids, and do as much as we can to help other people.
Final question. what is the one thing that people should know about Victor Arias that would surprise them?
One thing?
Do you cook? Do you bake?
Look. I cook, I clean, okay? I make breakfast, I make snacks for the kids. I do everything at home. And Gillette and I have this partnership, which we're trying to teach our kids to do the same. And they're going to have by far more opportunities, God willing, than we had. And because they're going to have all these opportunities, we're going to expect them to do a lot more for other people, to help other people, and to be positive role models to others. So there's nothing that I can't do in a sense, and that I wouldn't do.
And who do you see winning the NBA Finals?
Hopefully, it'll be Miami. Okay? I'm hoping for Miami.
I'm right there with you, man. As the saying goes on this particular show, for those who say it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by those like Victor Arias and all the fine people at the Arias Law Firm, his lovely family, Angelette, the 2 lovely kids, and everybody else who are doing it. Victor, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next week on Leap This Live.